Pleased to recognize the gentlelady from Maine, Congresswoman Pingree, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. I really appreciate all of the things you've been talking to us about and your very thoughtful answers. And I, as a member of the Appropriations Committee, just want to thank you for reminding everyone in the room that passing an appropriations bill is critically important. If we're all going to talk about the importance of getting a farm bill done, we have to remember that we need the funding for your agency as well, and that the 18% cut that was proposed is ludicrous. So I'm counting on my good friend, Mr. Bishop, for fixing all that before we take it to the floor, but let's just hope we can eventually get that to the floor. We've been talking a lot about climate change and disaster resilience, and really what I see now as this extreme weather that all of us are facing and our farmers are facing. And you were very kind to come and visit us in Maine last month, right after we'd had some horrendous storm in December that caught our forestry and farming folks off guard and really impacted our state with the flooding and the high winds. One of the farmers we showed you some pictures of was Chuck Noyes, a dairy farmer in Albion, Maine. He lost 2 buildings and a roof, and his insurance does not cover rebuilding the barn, and he's not sure if he's going to get the roof replacement. But a few days after you visited, we had 2 more storms back to back that really impacted our coastline. So that was our working waterfronts and our fishing community, more significant damage. And I like to remind people this wasn't the only bad weather we'd had. We had frost that destroyed our fruit crops in the spring. We had wet weather in the summer that left hay that couldn't be harvested or in such poor condition that our dairy farmers and livestock farmers have to supplement the diet this winter with increased grain and corn silage. This is going to continue to impact our farmers. And I just want to talk a little bit about the tools you're trying to provide to help farmers to be more resilient. You know, we all want to make sure there's disaster relief aid, and we appreciate your request for more of that because it's getting more and more expensive. But so much of what you're doing is to try to prevent the disasters that we're facing in terms of how farmers deal with drought and flooding. And so can you talk a little bit about what the work you're doing is to help farmers have more resilient fields and to deal with some of this adverse weather?
Well, I'd say there are 3 or 4 steps that we're taking. First of all, we continue to focus some of our research efforts on figuring out exactly what works and what doesn't work in the field to basically create a more resilient farming operation, and certainly would encourage a continued investment in our research initiatives. Secondly, the Climate Smart Agriculture Commodity Initiative, 141 projects across the United States, all major commodities, looking at 205 different practices to determine the viability of those practices in terms of resiliency and sustainability. I think we're going to learn a lot from that experience. We've got nearly 100 universities, minority serving institutions involved and engaged in that effort, and we're now beginning to see a lot of interest in that. We've mentioned today a number of times the IRA and the investments in conservation. Whether it's the EQIP or CSP, or from a large-scale landscape basis, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, that also is, I think, significant. We're also using our risk management tools to encourage more cover crop activity by providing incentives for the use of cover crop. And this most recent ag census indicates that that's beginning to work as we see an expansion of cover crop activity. So it's across the board efforts to try to make sure that we're a good partner with farmers, ranchers, and producers.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I do want to say, I know it comes up often, people criticize your use of the CCC, Community Credit Corporation, and having that flexibility. Sometimes it's talked about like it's a sacred cow, but I really appreciate how you're putting it to beneficial use. As you said, doing the kinds of research and the scale, the projects, it's at all different scales around the country, so people really have the examples of what to do. So, so thank you for that. One more specific question on the organic market development funding. I know you've talked a lot about how you get farmers extra income, and growing organic produce or organic food for the market is often that. I'm really pleased to see that the USDA is providing 10 organic market development grants to address gaps in the organic market, like processing, transporting, and consumer markets. Can you tell us a little bit about the demand for the program, where the funding for the program is coming from, and how we can support more of that organic market work?
There are, I think, 2 initiatives. The American Rescue Plan provided resources for us to establish an organic marketing assistance program. The application period for that program is still available, I think, through October of this year. There's been quite a bit of interest in that to assist farmers in terms of offsetting the cost of marketing. And then, as you indicated, we really wanted to take a look at trying to right-size, if you will, the supply and demand of organic opportunities across the country. And so we've awarded a number of entities resources to be able to tell us, how do we create demand? How do we make sure that the demand is being created where the supply is, or conversely, how do we create the supply where we already have demand, so that we basically right-size? I think we've also created a transition program, making it easier for people who want to become organic producers to be able to do so, with mentoring, with assistance on conservation costs associated with the transition, and with some risk management opportunities as well. So it's a combination.
Thank you. I've gone over my time. Those are great answers, and I appreciate you, Mr. Chair, indulging that extra minute. Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary.
No, I thank